What's up, wellness warriors, and welcome back to another episode of Reach Your Own Recovery. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the Narcissus Inability To Lie. It's secondhand nature to them, almost like they're not even trying. And if you think about it, they have to. So way back when they adopted that false self, they made a conscious decision to get validation through any means necessary. Now, when you adopt that any means necessary as a core value to who you are, you got to do some things in order to make sure that you uphold it. And when I say that, I mean you got to get rid of some stuff that contradicts that. You can't honor and practice honesty if you know you're going to have to use people in order to get what you want later on down the line. That's just, honesty is going to have to be something you get rid of as a narcissist. You can't have contradicting core values like empathy and remorse when you know you're going to do people dirty. Especially the people closest to you, especially the people you love. Now imagine if you had those core values, you would be in constant battle with yourself. The narcissist can't be in battle with themselves internally if they're trying to gain supply, if they're trying to gain validation. And to be honest with you, some of the best validation comes from hurting the people that are closest to them, the people that they love. Think about it. We're going to switch it up for a little bit. So I'm an empath, probably like most of you out there, empaths as well. And we're complete opposites from narcissists. So I want you to think about how sometimes we would feel if we would hurt somebody. Now, let's say if it's a stranger, and I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes in the past where I've said or done something that's hurt somebody. If it's a stranger, I'll dwell on it for a while. I'll do what I can to rectify or correct the situation. But eventually, I'll get back to operating as normal, where I learned my lesson and I can improve from that. But if I made a mistake and I hurt somebody that I truly care for, somebody that I truly love, that's something that's going to stick with me for a while. Even as I'm going through the process of trying to repair the damage, that's still something that'll haunt me. That's still something that it'll carry on throughout my life as a constant memory. Now, I'll learn from it. I'll learn not to do it again, but that's something that's really going to have a deep effect on me. To the narcissist, it's the exact opposite. When they're getting that validation, when they're getting that supply by any means necessary, let's say they come across a stranger. Instead of doing something by mistake to hurt them, they intentionally do something. That's the first opposite right there. They'll do something intentionally. And when it hurts that person, it gives them a bit of supply, it gives them a bit of happiness. But because that person's a stranger, that's a short-term fix. That's something that wears off quickly. But if they can hurt someone that deeply cares about them, that has a deep investment in them, it's the complete opposite of what we have. We have that feeling of deep hurt. They'll have a feeling of deep satisfaction, to where they validated their self so much that they got someone that they love to feel hurt and pain, and it makes them feel alive. It makes them feel validated. It's just troubling when you think about it. But that's a whole nother video altogether. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the skill set of lying that they've learned to achieve their goal of validation. Now, as you can tell from the title, they are beautiful liars. Not beautiful in the sense of physical attributes, beautiful in the terms of the mastery of their skill set. Let's be honest. If you take morals out of it, they are magnificent liars. Best I've ever seen. Now, when I first encountered this masterful art of the narcissist, I didn't even know what I was going through. I didn't even fully comprehend it. So I'm going to give you a little bit of story with the narcissist I dealt with. So we were coming out of church one day. Yes, narcissists do go to church. So we were coming out of church one day, and what we typically do is after we go to church, we'll go somewhere to get something to eat. So she already had in her mind where she wanted to go, particular restaurant, but apparently everybody and their mother wanted to go to the same spot. So we pulled up. We could already see people waiting outside. We We get out there, walk in, walk up to the maitre d'. You can already see people sitting on left and right. We knew it was going to be a wait. We just wanted to see how bad the wait was going to be. It was something along the lines of like 45 minutes to an hour. So myself, I'm like, whoo, I ain't got that long to wait. I'm about to book it on out. But this is how masterful that narcissist was. Started talking to the maitre d' and was just pulling stuff out of nowhere. I had a whole story online about how we made reservations beforehand, how we were going to be guaranteed a table, so on and so forth. And it was so fluid and it was so convincing that the maitre d' didn't know what to do. It was just kind of like, you got to be telling the truth. So they went and found us a table immediately to seat us. Now I'm sitting here, I'm looking dumbfounded. I had even got so caught up in the lie, I'm sitting up here thinking, well, did I make reservations? Is there something I didn't know about? And just when I was getting to the point where I was starting to deceive myself into believing it, she turns around and gives me a, and I'm like, oh, so you were lying. And then as we sat down to eat, as I sat across from her, I could tell throughout the whole time, she was so happy in the lie that she placed. And it was right then and there. It was early on in the situationship, that my gut was just rumbling. Had that gut feeling, didn't pay attention to it, but it was something in me. It was something in me that took that red flag and stored it away. And it was like, you're going to need this at a later date. And sure enough, when it came time around to me getting lied to, I pulled that right out the memory bank. So I was like, yeah, we told you. We told you she was a masterful liar. And I just had to go ahead and eat that L. Now, I'm sure most of y'all have gone through a similar situation to that. Matter of fact, I'm curious about hearing about it. Y'all can go ahead and drop it in the comments below. But there was one particular thing that kind of hit me when I was putting together the information for this video. I had to ruminate on some of that stuff. And it was kind of like that righteous anger that I felt was bubbling up again. And for those of y'all that put your comments down, or for those of y'all that recollected the situation that you had with your lying narcissist, and you probably didn't even have to think back that far. You probably had it in your memory bank just like I did. It brings up that anger or that feeling of just that righteous anger. I guess that's the best way to put it. And I started digging into why I felt that way. And then I started thinking about it. We're made in the image of our Creator. So I asked myself, well, how does he feel about lies? So let's go ahead and turn to the good book. So today, we're going to read from Proverbs 12:22. And Proverbs 12:22 says, lying lips are an abomination to the Lord, but those who deal truthfully are his delight. An abomination to the Lord. Well, now I'm starting to understand why I feel that way. If the Lord looks at it as an abomination, that lying and deceitful tongue, now I understand why I'm so angry when it happens to me. There you see a stark contradiction between how he feels about liars and how he feels about those that speak truth. That verse is showing you a clear difference between narcissists and empaths. Narcissists being the liars and empaths being the truth tellers. You're not only moving at different speeds, you're moving in different directions. So if you're linked up with somebody like that, that is the clearest definition of not being equally yoked. You're actually working against each other and you're making no progress in life whatsoever. All right, so I see it out there. Some of y'all starting to get it. Liars, truth tellers, y'all starting to see the stark difference. But you're asking yourself, all right, well, how do I move? How do I operate in the situationship? So with that, I want to jump to another verse in the Bible. It's a quick hitter. It's actually the NIV version I want to read from. So I'm going to switch to my journal. So the part I want to read from is going to be Psalms 101, verse 7. So this is the game plan. No one who practices deceit will dwell in my house. No one who speaks falsely will stand in my presence. So I'm going to go ahead and say that again. No one who speaks falsely will stand in my presence. The first thing I want you to understand is how hard this resonated with me. Because before I even read that verse in the Bible, I had already made up in my mind, we ain't going to be in the same house, and I'm going to spend as little time with you as possible. Especially with one of my love languages being quality time. That's actually one of my highest ones. So I had already made that up in my mind. So when I read that in the Bible, you will not dwell in my house and you will not stand in my presence, I felt that passionately. I felt it so passionately, I almost interjected some cuss words in it. I almost let out Reverend Samuel L. Jackson III. Holy Ghost had to get me though. Had to hold on, big fella. You don't want them problems. Don't you go altering the text. So I caught myself. But I was saying that to say, I felt very passionate about reading that verse in the Bible. As you should too. It's a clear and present playbook on what you need to do. Not only are they to spend time with you, not only are they to be in your presence, there is no way they're going to dwell in your house while they practice deceit. Now, some of y'all empathy may be very strong. You may not have learned to quite ration it out or apply it to where it needs to be. Because you might be thinking to yourself, man, that's a little harsh. I don't know if I can do that. That's a little harsh. But I want you to focus on the key phrase where it says practices deceit. The key word I want you to focus on is practices. Now, when you think of that, think about a trained athlete. So a trained elite athlete practices day in and out to get to the point that they are. We know about MJ, we know about Kobe, we know about LeBron, because those athletes practice their heart out. They practice harder than anybody else out there in order to get to that point, in order to stay there consistently, in order to gain that reputation. Now, there is a alarming similarity between the level of effort that they put towards that practice and the level of effort that the narcissist puts towards their lying. It's the same thing. They're putting hours in on the gym. They're putting hours in on manipulation. They're performing out there on the court, the athletes, and the narcissists are actively engaged in deceit, being deceitful and manipulating people out there in the streets. They don't get to that level of lying overnight. That's something they got to practice, continually get better with. And with each new supply, it's a new challenge because they ain't going to be able to lie to this supply like they lied to the last one. They got to learn new ways to get you, new ways to get you hooked so they can drag you along. So when you look at it at that level, it's easy to kind of use that empathy sparingly and say, okay, now I understand. Now, it's not a whole lot more to say on the subject. The Bible is very clear on it. If you have somebody in your presence that is openly practicing deceit, that is a consistent and chronic liar, to whom you may have brought it up to, and they have made no effort to change. In fact, you can tell that through their repeated offenses, they've made a conscious decision to be a liar and manipulator towards you and anybody they come across. And I need you to go back, read Psalms 101, chapter 7 again. You will not stand in my presence nor dwell in my household. Understand that this person practices deceit and that your empathy and your compassion needs to be sent to them sparingly because they'll take advantage of it. Now I had another passage that I wanted to go to, but there was so much meat, there was so much substance to it that it deserves a whole video for itself. Now, I tell you what, I'll give you some homework. Go ahead and read John chapter 8, verse 44, and it goes into even more detail as to what you're dealing with that lie. Now, I don't have any authority over anybody, so if this is something you want to do, take that as homework for this video. Let me know what you think. Hey, you can leave that in the comments below as well. But until next time, I thank all of you for allowing me to fellowship with you. I love you. Keep fighting the good fight. And we will talk again soon. All right, y'all. Peace.